Hello, everybody. You're listening to the IncGamers Podcast. My name's Peter Parrish. It's I guess it's the Thanksgiving podcast for anyone in the US. If you're worried about whether we have a turkey for you, well, I will be talking about X Rebirth quite shortly. So I am here with Tim McDonald. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
And Paul Younger. Hello, Paul.
Good evening.
Excellent. Now we've had it. Go on, Tim. Sorry.
For those of you not in the US, I mean, I'm not in the US, neither's Paul, so I can't really treat this as a Thanksgiving podcast. I would like to nominate this for being the Tim's birthday podcast as well.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Excellent.
Thanksgiving's a pretty decent holiday though, because basically it's Christmas without all the present bullshit. So I can recommend it. It's basically just eating. So yeah, it's good stuff. What was I going to say? Well, I was going to say we've had a request to talk about Fallout 4. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, the Facebook users have spoken. It's all about Fallout 4.
That's going to be a little bit difficult because we don't actually. Well, one, we don't know if this weird ARG website game thing is necessarily real, and two, even if it is, it hasn't divulged massive amounts of Fallout 4 information, but I guess we'll do our best. There's been a new Morse code thing today being Tuesday. When this goes up, there'll probably have been another one. And as with previous ones, it's relating to events in and around Boston, which is where this next Fallout game is and has been rumoured to be taking place for quite a while. It kind of seems like the Bethesda developed ones stick to the East Coast, and the Obsidian or Black Isle developed ones stick to the West Coast, and that seems to be how it might be going. So yeah, my big hope is just that it doesn't use the Gamebryo engine, because the Gamebryo engine is horrible and old and rubbish. How about you, anyone who wants to talk about Fallout speculation after me? Opening the floor. No. Well, that's just disappointing.
The thing is, I can't keep up with it this week. It's been mental. It's one Morse code message after one bit of web page source code reading message.
Yeah.
And you people keep writing news stories about every single one of these things.
Because it's actually quite interesting.
People want to read it.
I started getting pulled in when I started finding myself ending up on sort of cipher code deciphering web pages. Which was kind of weird because I'd never thought I'd be that bothered about it, but it's actually quite fun. I'm actually quite enjoying it.
I've learned a little bit of Morse code, so it has taught me something. I know that if you do QR, that now means like calling all stations, and I know that if you put K, that means over. So there you go. It's actually taught me something. I don't know if it has anything to do with Fallout 4 necessarily. Paul and I were talking earlier about how amusing / terrible it would be if eventually it's like, oh, we're doing Fallout the MOBA on iOS. I don't think that would go down too well with anyone.
Well, based on how much they're liking the Morse code and stuff like that, I'm going to guess that it's actually a game about the shipping forecast.
Yeah, it could be. Or it just could be a Morse code tutorial.
Possibly.
Yeah, well, it's working on me, so good work, whoever's behind this. Is this the Society to reinstate Morse code as a transmission source?
Is this a conspiracy? Has this society bought Bethesda or something?
Did anyone actually have a look at the map that someone had mapped out of all the key locations that they've pointed out?
Yeah, very briefly, but yes, I did see that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Quite well done, yeah, based on the locations that have been kind of mentioned so far around Massachusetts and Boston. Yeah, again, completely speculative because it's coming from the Reddit user base, not even the teaser site. But I don't know. I think they did a similar one for Grand Theft Auto 5 though, and actually got bizarrely close to what it ended up being. So fair play. They may have been on the money again. I'm just thinking who would make and publish a game about the shipping forecasts, Tim? Who's
probably the same guys that did stuff like Farm Simulator Pro and
so like Excalibur.
I think they have already done some shipping games and stuff, so maybe, but no, it probably wouldn't be EA or Activision. It seems like the sort of thing that THQ might have might have picked up in one of their fits of insanity that lead to bankruptcy.
Did any of you guys play that game years ago where you had to basically an air traffic controller and it was just like a radar screen? That was mental. Absolutely mental. Brilliant, though. It was brilliant. I actually gave it a really high score on the site. I think this is like 8-9 years ago.
That sounds quite tense.
Oh yeah, it was literally was a suicide case at the end of it.
So whoever
So everything they say about the suicide rate being high for air traffic controllers is true.
Yeah. So whoever made that probably is doing this shipping forecast, this Fallout themed shipping forecast game where maybe you reorganize your submarines off the coast to try and defend against nuclear attack. It's a prequel.
That sounds much too exciting.
So I don't know. I guess I hope that satisfies people who want a Fallout 4 chat. Because honestly, there isn't much more to go on or do with that. It's kind of like we need to wait for that timer to tick down, basically, and see what appears at the end.
That's the thing. We can't talk about it much this week, but we will probably be talking about it next week and the week after, I suspect.
Yeah.
So there you go. You've had a little sneak preview. Should we make some predictions about what we think will actually happen? Assuming it is Fallout 4, and assuming that it is set in sort of Boston, Massachusetts.
Sure.
Give me a prediction.
Well, I think it will probably encompass something to do with the Institute, which is the Fallout Worlds version of MIT, which has kind of been mentioned a few other times in Fallout games as a place where they have a lot of advanced technology still. I think Mr. House attended the Institute, it mentions in New Vegas, so pretty sure that would be in there. I don't have much beyond that, to be quite honest with you.
Part of me, I think I said this to you the other day, part of me is wondering if the continual mentions of nuclear winter is coming is actually to do with we might see weather other than sun and desert, whether there might actually be a bit of snow somehow. Yeah. I don't quite know how that would work, but it would certainly be a bit of a change of pace.
Would they not just take the Skyrim engine and then just sort of report it over to some sort of weird nuclear?
Yeah, I'm kind of unsure. I mean, the Skyrim engine, before they released it, they were all like, "Oh no, we know you don't like Gamebryo. It's different." But I think it was just an updated Gamebryo engine. So I'm kind of hoping it's not the Skyrim engine, frankly.
Well, if it is the Skyrim engine, all you really need to know, listeners, is don't buy it on the PlayStation 3 because it won't.
No, it won't. Might work for a bit, but then it'll start running very slowly indeed. So slowly that in fact they didn't even manage to release some of the last bits of DLC for it, did they? Because they couldn't even get it to work. Yeah, that engine's a bit old and tired, and perhaps should be taken out behind the barn these days. But yeah, hopefully there would be some. That sounds a bit brutal. Sorry. I hope.
Shoot the engine in their face.
I'm sorry, Gamebryo. You performed admirably for multiple.
No, it didn't. Gamebryo was rubbish.
Performed amusingly, can we say? It was quite funny sometimes.
Admirably is going quite far. Adequately would be correct maybe half of the time.
My favourite quest from Fallout New Vegas is one that's supposed to be like kind of moving because you have to like retrieve this veteran's body from the battlefield somewhere for the NCR. But because the Gamebryo engine is so bad, the only way you can bring this body back is by kind of dragging it, flapping around behind you. And it makes this what's supposed to be quite a sad quest in a just amazing good times. Because you're trying to just wander around with this guy's body flapping around everywhere. It's great. That's my memory of the Gamebryo engine. So yeah, no, weather effects would be good. Winter or otherwise, because they've often been modded in on the PC, of course, and it usually makes things quite nice. So yeah,
I don't know how winter would work in the post-apocalyptic Fallout world, but I don't know. I'd like to see it nonetheless if they figure out a way of doing it.
There was a bit in New Vegas where it was in a kind of snowy region. It wasn't actively snowing, but if you went, it was where what's his face, Marcus was hanging out.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Like the
Yes.
lodge place. Yeah, there was some
Yeah.
snow around there, I think. Um,
You might
not.
be right, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've toyed with other. I mean, there was an area with quite a lot of dense vegetation and so on as well, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly. It was
Yeah.
a bit of a hidden area, but there's certainly room for them to experiment.
They just have to come up with some bullshit science excuse for why there happens to be snow in this area or something, which is pretty easily done.
Weather control generator run by the Institute.
There you go. You've just written the. That was amazing how fast you managed to come up with that. There we go. Yeah, that's that. That's that completely explained. Great. Um, all right, moving on from Fallout 4 then to something that I thought was it's kind of it was treated as kind of a small news item, but is actually fairly momentous for the PC, I think, which was that John Carmack has finally left either ID or is it id? I think it's id Software, isn't it? Yeah, I've always wondered about that. He was one of the founding members. I think he is the last founding member to leave id Software. So the guys behind Quake and Doom and all those original shooters, they no longer have any of their founding members, and he, of course, is now doing Oculus stuff full time. He was already employed by Oculus as the chief technology officer, I think. He's now going to be doing that all the time.
Well, see, what's going to happen is he's either in 12 months' time going to just sit at home with his head in his hands at the kitchen table going, I think I've made a terrible mistake. or the Oculus will really take off. I'm still not sure. I mean, Tim's probably better to comment on this because he's got one, but I'm still not 100% convinced that a lot of the hurdles that they'll be able to get over with it, but I don't know. But it's momentous. It is a momentous sort of move for if he's not building rockets or whatever it is he does in his spare time. Then,
well, Tim already knows that Quake and VR don't really mix, so perhaps Carmack has figured that out too.
In fairness, I don't think Quake was really built for VR, which I think is part of the thing. Games to work with the Oculus Rift, they are going to actually need to be designed with the Oculus Rift. Now, I'm saying this out of very limited experience. I've still got a big, long list of things that I want to play that have Rift support. I do think that a lot of these problems can be surmounted once the consumer model is out with its higher resolution and once people actually start designing games for the Rift from the ground up.
Indeed.
Sorry if I just killed this topic.
No.
Yeah, you killed it, Tim. There's a tumbleweed behind you just blowing.
Well, there's a direction we can go, of course, because Valve have talked about having a VR headset of their very own that they've been secretly developing in some sort of Seattle basement somewhere that they're going to show off at their Steam Dev Days event in mid-January. So I guess we're going to see a competitor, possibly.
I've got a question. What is it with Valve and being shit lately?
You're not referring to the game
even
reviews,
seen
are
the
you?
VR headset. So.
No. I just mean someone has finally managed to get VR relatively working. You know, there's still hurdles to overcome. It's not nearly at the point where it's got consumer acceptance yet.
No.
And Valve have basically now jumped on this and are, from the sounds of it, going to be creating their own competing version, which will presumably be different and thus is just going to cause yet more problems for VR by having these two separate systems you're going to need to develop for.
Oh, I see.
And in terms of Valve also being shit, yes, I'm talking about the game reviews and also Steam Greenlight and basically everything else they've done lately.
Well, it's a case of Valve really wanting it all, and they're kind of going in the right direction to getting it. I mean, if we put a thing up today about a sort of new consumer Steam, third-party Steam box, which went up, which is, I can't even remember what it was called. It was the I buy shit or something, I buy stuff or something.
Power.
I buy power, that's it. So, I don't know. I think you're right, Tim. I think adding more into the equation right now at this early stage is probably not great for VR.
I honestly think it's a mistake. I mean, I know I'm being flippant about this, but I do think that it's a bad idea until VR actually stabilizes somewhat and these problems are ironed out. I think it's just going to make things a lot more confusing and a lot more difficult to get off the ground.
Yeah, well, Valve are kind of going all over the map right now with pseudo consoles and in-home streaming and VR.
You know, they can't develop games anymore. I'm not sure why they can't.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, there's Dota certainly, but that's a port of a Warcraft 3 mod, and that's still taking them years. I mean, you've got that, and they're just making so much money from Steam that they don't know what to do with it. So they're going, here we go, we'll throw 17 million at developing a VR headset because why not?
Well, I put Valve's lack of focus down to the fact that they keep moving their fucking desks around in the office. And if the guy in marketing stopped moving to game development, then we might actually get some games.
If the guy in PR would actually respond to our emails.
Oh, don't. Doug's lovely.
He does send me emails now. He doesn't send them to my work address. He sends them to the personal one, I think, because that's the one that I signed up to Steam with originally. So
I thought you were going to say he doesn't send to my work address, but he comes around my house.
He's not far away, assuming he lives in Seattle. He could get down here quite easily.
Oh, so are you inviting Doug round for a cup of tea?
Yeah, sure. Doug Lombardi is welcome round our place anytime. So as long as he's not allergic to a couple of cats, he'll be fine. We'll have a nice chat.
Trap.
Then I'm gonna keep him here until he tells me when Half-Life 3's coming. He's gonna be like, I don't know, because he probably doesn't. I guess what do we think of this iBuyPower Steam machine? I thought it's the first one that's actually had a price point that hasn't made me just burst out laughing, at least.
Yeah, but it's still a price point where you're kind of teetering on the edge of, oh bollocks, I'll just buy a PC for a couple hundred more bucks. I don't even think the specs are that great in it, but I mean,
they're
okay.
But
it comes with SteamOS, which is fine, but then there's no Windows on it. It's kind of like banking on Valve having it all sewn up with SteamOS and developers totally backing it, and I don't know. It's just a prototype. It's just a prototype. I mean, it could be nothing. It may never ever materialize. And basically, we could come up with our own Steam box, or the IncGamers Steam box, which is basically powered by a couple of hamsters and I don't know, some sort of old, powered by the ZX Spectrum with an old CRT 14-inch monitor attached to it, and there we go. And it runs SteamOS. Costs a tenner.
I guarantee it will play Elite at 6 frames per second.
It might play X
at 240p.
Do you think it'll handle X Rebirth though, Peter?
It will absolutely not play X Rebirth at 60 frames per second, nor will it play Total War Rome 2. I'm not sure about this claim that it can run everything at 1080p and 60 FPS, because there's quite a few games they haven't accounted for that are kind of struggling with that at the moment, no matter what amazing rig you have.
But I think the price point is interesting. I mean, it's about the same price as like an Xbox One, but I can't get over this thing about. I just can't go over this hurdle of the bloody a box in your living room, and it kind of replaces what you would normally have as a PC. Maybe I'm just too old school, but I'm not convinced. I really am not convinced.
Well, we'll see how it. I mean, you're right. You definitely want to wait until the whole SteamOS thing has settled down. I mean, I know there's other ways of getting the games onto it. Like they say, oh well, you could use the SteamOS to install Windows and stuff, and say, yeah, but now it's getting quite convoluted and awkward, really.
What about the fact that you could just have a little box that you stream from your PC to your little box that costs tiny fraction of the price?
I'm relatively interested in that. I know people on our site keep going, oh, you could just buy some cables. Look, man, if you saw my apartment, you would know that it is not feasible to buy like 50 foot of fucking cables and another bloody USB one for the Xbox controller, I guess. It's just like, it would be a bit cheaper than $100 box, but for the convenience.
Here's another alternative.
You
could move your living room into your office. Instead of your office into your living room. Cunning. It's the reverse psychology there.
So just put a big comfy sofa in front of my desk, and then like get Netflix streaming in reverse. Yeah, interesting.
Yep. See, we're always thinking outside the box in gamers. Fuck you, Valve. This is the way it's going. It's
Genius.
the bloody living room into the office, not the office into the living room.
Well, there we go. We've solved that problem. I didn't see much other news around this week. It was pretty much all Fallout. I don't know.
I just can't believe you didn't see the fact that Star Citizen raised.
No, I did see that. I chose not.
Nobody cares.
Right. Okay. No. Here's the thing. Right. Now that they've
Really
kind of run out, now that they've got so much money and they've kind of run out of shit, what can we put in the game? They're now getting the community to vote for the next ships that they want. So of course, and this is what I can't quite get my head around this. People are piling money into ships that are basically concepts, and nobody has a clue. I think I said to you yesterday that every ship could just fly like a marble in space. We've got no idea, absolutely no idea how this is good, how the ships are going to handle, how differently they're going to handle.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. And yet we're all going, here, have another million.
I think that this is basically just feature creep. Like this is actually just watching feature creep happen.
But is it feature creep? Because ultimately they're just going, well, we haven't got any more features here. Have another ship.
Well, that's what I mean. It was up until now. They've now topped out on feature creep. They've got no idea what to do.
So basically, we're calling the ship creep. So ship creep without a paddle, basically.
Yeah. Now they're basically saying for every amount of money you give us that could actually build a spaceship, we'll add one to the game.
Yeah.
I find it astonishing that amongst this amount of people who are giving this amount of money, there must be a substantial amount who normally would be like, "Oh, don't pre-order stuff. That's a mugs game." And yet, look at what you're doing. All you have of this game is a pretend hangar, and Chris Roberts making a lot of very, very interesting but ambitious promises, and that's kind of it.
Do you think he's taken Molyneux syndrome to the next level?
He could be the next Molyneux. I mean, I don't know. His promises are sort of, they're not as fun. I mean, to put it bluntly, I prefer Molyneux's promises because they're always slightly insane.
But wait! You haven't seen that they'll be adding a dog that runs around your hangar, and has full emotion.
As soon as they announce the dog, then I'll know that he's gone full Molyneux. Yes, but as soon as he says that. As soon as the next feature is the ship that you buy will react to the mood that you're in on the day at the time, then I'll know that it's Molyneux. But until that time...
Yeah, basically, you get in it and it just goes, fuck off, I'm not leaving the hangar today.
I'm sad today. Be nice to me before I take off. Maybe that's what I need to do in X Rebirth. Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong.
Maybe the fish that you get in your goldfish tank will talk to you.
I hope so. That would be good. All of these features that they could go for the $32 million. So there you go, Chris Roberts.
Actually, what's more disappointing to me about it is they raised $1 million to for enhanced mission design for the Squadron 42 single player campaign.
Okay.
That is something that really interests me, probably as much as the multiplayer. And it's kind of like, well. Yeah, we'll toss you $1 million. There you go. That's it. Go on with the single player. Like, why don't they give them like 4 million and just come up with the most awesome single player gaming experience? I can't believe I used the word awesome. I'm not going to use that word anymore. Brilliant, brilliant single player experience. Instead of just tossing them $1 million, instead we get a few more ships, like a mining platform.
A thoroughly spiffing single player experience.
I'm just waiting for them to create the sanitary department ship that basically just goes around cleaning out toilets of all the other ships in space.
And that's what you do to earn your space credits and your space citizenry. Yeah.
The more poo you collect, the more credits you earn.
Well, that's a big part of. So this is an Xbox One thing, but Zoo Tycoon on the Xbox One, part of that you go around clicking on the poo to clean it up. There you go.
Jeez.
That's like Goddess all over again.
Could there be a better metaphor for the Xbox One? What's that? I guess the other thing in the news was that FIFA Manager got cancelled to the surprise and distress of, I don't want to say no one, because I guess someone out there was probably upset, but...
4 people.
I haven't played
it. Did you even know Did you even know that was released last month?
No, I sort of vaguely knew it was still going, but I had no idea that it was being released last month.
I think we may have discovered why it hasn't been selling that well then.
Even the people who might be considering writing about it have no idea that it still exists.
Well, look at it this way: all the money that EA pump into marketing and shit like Battlefield and all that kind of stuff, and FIFA and so on, they obviously gave up long time ago on the FIFA Manager franchise to the point of where there's just no point. But SI must be laughing. I mean, I'd be pissing myself laughing when that was revealed at the weekend.
Yep, I mean they saw off Championship Manager. I think the last one of those was like 2010. It's on bloody phones now or something. They've now seen off FIFA Manager. They are the only... No, they're not the only, because Lords of Football still exists, which is quite a different game to Football Manager.
Do we think that's going to get annual sequels?
I hope so, but probably not. No. Yeah, pretty much it's Football Manager or nothing, really, which honestly it mostly has been for the past decade or so. But
I realised that in light of what I said about Valve producing a VR thing, this is going to sound weird, but I do not support this thing of SI basically having a monopoly over this market, if only because there is, from what I can gather, still quite a lot of stuff that people would like to be improved in Football Manager, and now they've got even less impetus than before to do that.
Well, it's... As someone who actually plays and likes these games, it's that Football Manager has a specific direction that it's going in, and there is definitely room for other games in this area that just take it in a different direction. And
all right, fine. Just come back at me with facts from someone who's actually played the game. Be like that.
So do you think that because they're so lazy now that they'll just add sliders and stuff back in the next year?
No,
out?
No more sliders. No.
Lots of sliders. If you're listening, loads of sliders for Peter.
I mean, to be honest, the sliders are still there. It's just they're disguised as words now. So I actually read an interesting critique from someone that said, in fact, all they've done is abstracted it even more. So that rather than just abstracting football management onto sliders, it's now abstracted onto sliders which are hidden, abstracted onto words which you don't really quite know what they mean, which is quite a compelling critique.
I know what they're doing there. Next year's one, or possibly 2 years' time, they're going to go full Molyneux. The entire game interface, you're going to have to select words out of like a dictionary, and it'll be able to understand all of the words in every context. But to do anything in the game, you've got to go and pick the exact sentence you want.
The correct sentence to win games is "Hoof it up to the big lad. He'll score the goals." that's how you win. Yeah, it's. I mean, I want more narrative stuff. I want it to go full on Crusader Kings 2, but with footballers, basically. But
yeah, I do think that Football Manager could do with some more child murdering.
What?
That's what happens.
Can't you murder children in Crusader Kings 2? I mean, I haven't played it.
You do frequently.
Exactly.
It happens all the time. It's kind of amazing that they don't get any shit for this. It's like the most grotesque game on the market, pretty much. But they just go, but that's what happened in history. And you have to kind of go, well, yeah, fair enough.
Yep, Fallout 2, 18 rating, and they had to remove the children from the game.
Yeah, I know.
Crusader Kings 2, kill all the children! Nobody cares!
Just go around the map, finding as many children as you can and paying to have them assassinated. Nobody cares.
King Henry Simulator.
But you don't see it, you see. You don't really... It just sort of abstractly happens.
Doesn't that make it worse, though? Because that really does desensitize you from it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Getting none of the feedback of, oh my god, I've just murdered a child.
No, you're just like, oh, I'm slightly closer to inheriting the throne of France now. Hooray! Yes. Okay, well, unless there's any more news, that probably wraps it up for the news segment of this podcast. I've been trying to put it off talking about
Go on, Peter.
Go on,
X Rebirth.
you slag.
Come on, alright. Is it good?
Can I answer that with a question?
Okay.
much in the style of a politician. Are you familiar with the Greek myth of Sisyphus, the man condemned to
The stone.
rolling a stone continually up a hill, and when he reaches the top of the hill, the stone rolls back down all the way, and you have to keep doing it. Trading in X Rebirth is a bit like the myth of Sisyphus. For those of you who don't know, X Rebirth is the new one from Egosoft, who have a sort of long tradition of space sims in the X series. We mentioned Elite earlier, if you're familiar with stuff like Elite, it's kind of an open world in space. You have a ship, you can trade. I think their tagline is trade, build, fight, and think. And to go through those, let's start with trade. Trade currently is completely broken in this game, so that I'll go into that more in a bit. So that's trade. Build is pretty tricky because to build you need to import materials and do trading. So building space stations depends on trading, and trading is completely broken. So building is out. Fight, yes, you can fight. There is combat in this game. The combat functions okay. It's a lot less interesting because you only have one ship, and the upgrades for that ship are pretty boring. But of the three, the fighting, I would say, of those three is definitely the best because it sort of works. There's no buttons for targeting ships, and there's no like radar gravidar thing. So what you have to do is look for little tiny red triangles at the edges of your screen, which is a bit difficult when you're in a zone that has a big fucking sun in it, where everything is bloomed out in yellow. And you're thinking, where are the targeting icons? I cannot really see them. So yeah, fighting not amazing either.
Can I just interject for a moment? I just want to clarify a point. You said that fighting is probably the best bit of the game on the basis that it works. Those are quite low standards. Is this what X Rebirth has done to you? You're kind of scrabbling around for something nice to say, and you go, well, that bit works. That's good.
That bit functions. I can fire my lasers at a ship, and it eventually blows up. Well, let me just quickly finish off. The last one is think, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about X Rebirth over the past 10 days or so since its release. So I guess that kind of qualifies. Bad things. I've been thinking very bad things. Well, if you want me to say something good, the music is excellent. That's not sarcastic at all. The music is genuinely superb in this game. I like the music a lot. It's kind of got me through the 20-odd hours that I've been playing it. So if you find the soundtrack on YouTube or something, that's pretty good. Everything else, not so good. Man, it's even difficult where to start. Basically, nothing in it really works, so that's the starting point for you. Yeah.
You're having difficulty with this, I can tell.
I'm just...
All right, walk me through a bit of it. The game starts. I presume you've got your ship and you've got this big open universe. Give me an example of what you might spend the next 15 minutes doing.
Okay. Well, quite early on in the campaign, it teaches you about trading. Okay. What you have to do is trade 100 energy cells from one space station to another space station. Now, this is a space sim game. Trading is kind of at the heart of it. This is early on. You think that's going to be quite easy, okay? So first, it even gives you the sort of freighter ship for free. So that's great because then you don't have to like raise a shitload of money to buy it. So that's cool. You got your ship. First, you have to hire a captain and a kind of defense coordinator for the ship. That involves looking around, docking with space stations and looking around for likely candidates for that task. You can ask people, direct me to the nearest captain or whatever. That's the easiest way to do that. The space stations have the same abysmal frame rate performance as the universe as a whole. It kind of seems like they're still trying to render the entire space zone while you're inside the space station. That's the only reason I can come up with for why you've got like lower teen FPS inside a space station. The character models in the space station are horrible. The voice acting is atrocious. Everyone basically has the same lines. When you're talking to people, you get these sort of pseudo Mass Effect dialogue menus, except because you have a bunch of things to ask that they're really kind of horribly nested inside. So like when you ask where the captain is, you have to be like, okay, show me job applicant, more. It's not on this page, more. Okay, yes, show me the captain. So that's kind of a bit crap.
And we haven't even got to the trading yet.
No, but this is vital for the trading because you have to hire crew for the ship, you see. So then you've got the captain and you've got your defense coordinator. It's worth noting, by the way, that even though you've hired a captain for a ship, if the ship runs out of fuel, it will call you going, "Oh, I've run out of fuel." Well, you've got a fucking captain. Go and refuel yourself. You don't need me to like hold your hand and go and help you refuel. That's why I hired someone to fly this ship. Okay, so, and by the way, you can't really see anyone's skills before you hire them. If you ask to see their skills, you just get a screen with a bunch of question marks on. The only way to see their skills, we're getting to the trading. The only way to see their skills is to engage in a weird small talk mini game that only fires off every now and again. So if you want to see someone's skills before you hire them, you have to wait around for the little weird mini game small talk thing to trigger off. Make your way through the fucking awful dialogue in that, and then you might be able to see their skills, and then you can hire them. So anyway, you've got your trading ship, and it's got the people on it. That's good. So you fly off to the place it directs you to buy the energy cells, and you ask the ship. You make a trade with the station. It tells you to get discounts, and to get discounts, what you do is you fly around the station very slowly, scanning tiny information points on the station, because that's the way that you get discounts for some reason. Because that's something to look forward to for the rest of the game, is flying slowly around space stations, scanning tiny icons. Then you tell the ship to buy the energy cells because you've got the discount now. At this point, the campaign offers you this other quest to do because it's like, oh, it might take a while for the ship to load. Go do this other quest. Don't do the other quest. If you do the other quest, your trader will become horribly confused and will not buy the energy cells. So don't do that. In fact, just wait in the same sector. You might have to wait for like 10 or 15 minutes because trading is very slow. And there's no like time speed up button in this game, even though there were in all the other X games. So you just got to wait and sit there for your trader to do that. You then fly off to the place where you need to sell the energy cells. Your ship may or may not follow you. It should follow you. It might not, you know. Hopefully it does. Otherwise, you've kind of glitched out. If it does follow you, you then make the transaction to sell the energy cells. And then your ship will not sell the energy cells because trade is so broken that all of the spaceports have AI traders sat in front of them blocking the port, not making any trades. So your freighter is unable to reach the spaceport. The only way to get past this part of the game is to download a saved game file that someone else has put up on the internet for you. Then you start to cry. That's the end of X Rebirth.
I have to say, I mean, it just sounds absolutely appalling. And I know we've kind of been following this quite a lot on the site.
Yep.
But I haven't played it, and you have. I think I played the first X many moons ago.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Do you think this is a major clusterfuck for Egosoft, and there's actually no way of coming back from this? I mean, is the game fixable by the community, or is it that bad?
I think they can fix certain aspects of trade. Like, obviously, having freighters blocking all the spaceports is not working as intended, and that's going to be some kind of scripting thing. I mean, the terrible performance is obviously some kind of optimization thing that's going to be down to Egosoft to solve. I don't think anyone can mod that, really. So hopefully they can fix that. I mean, I don't know.
It's the reputation of the X series, which has quite a big sort of following that people are quite passionate about it. I mean, do you think it's shot?
Well, this is going to be forever the one that, in a few years' time when it's like Humble Bundle X series, people are going to be like, well, yeah, you get some decent games and you get bloody X Rebirth as well, the shit one. It's going to be like Deus Ex Invisible War, you know. It's the one of the series, I think, that people are going to just refer to as the bad one from now on.
But
I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
it can be
sounds-
improved, certainly. It's gonna get better than it is now, but I mean, it's pretty telling that most of the mods right now remove things from the game. You know, it's like removing the need to go in space stations, because wandering around talking to the freaks of nature that live in the sub 2000 era rendered space stations, like none of that is entertaining or fun in any way. So that's, you know, I like the idea that you would dock at a space station and walk around and kind of learn stuff about the universe and talk to characters through dialogue, but the implementation is just shocking. It's awful. It's some of the worst voice acting and character models, and like they're basically a menu with a face. You could replace all of these people with a menu, which is effectively what the mod does. So, you know, I mean, that's obviously because it's early on. That's the nature of the mods so far. They haven't had time to kind of work with this stuff to create something of their own kind of thing. But
I mean, it sounds like the general game mechanics and just the way everything is strung together is fundamentally badly designed and ill thought out. And that in itself, once you start stripping all that away, you're not left with a lot.
No, not really. And you're left with the thought, well, if I'm a modder of the X series, I'm going to stick with X3 and all of its expansions, because there's a large modding community for that already. It's apparently easy enough to do. And you know, that game with the mods and with the expansions works pretty well and is fine, and everyone's pretty happy with it. So
actually, just coincidentally, there's just a post gone up on the site just now on this very story about them apologising for being such a mess. Graham points out that Elite Dangerous alpha test starts in 2 weeks. The beta's in January, February, and the game releases around March, April. And he just says, not long to wait now. At least they are on record as saying they will be testing the game to death before going live. So do you think? I mean, do you think any of these issues could have fundamentally been resolved based if they'd had a good test of really dedicated X fans in a testing pool just to say that this is bad?
I think a lot of the campaign bugs, certainly, yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't go. Well, I guess they were too deep into their like release campaign or whatever. But yeah, they should have gone on like Steam Early Access first with this at a reduced price. Got people to help with ironing out the campaign bugs and stuff like that. But yeah, there's stuff in it that just isn't. You know, the whole space station thing isn't good and can't really be salvaged. The combat isn't great. I mean, they could perhaps add a radar to that or something. Maybe they can add in other ships that you could fly later on if people want that. But I mean, we're talking a lot of. I mean, right now they're busy trying to put out fires and make their actual trade system in the game function, which is kind of a big deal, obviously.
Well, you're and this is quite painful to talk about. I can see actually because I can just see a tear coming from the corner of your eye. But your review is going up pretty soon, so
yes, probably in conjunction with this podcast. I think.
Yeah, let's move on because it sounds. I'm really determined. I'm really interested actually to see how you score this one and what your thoughts are on it.
Oh, so you can probably guess.
Yeah, well, we've had some shockers. We've had some shockers this year. So
let's just say, right.
I know how games journalism works. This is a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.
It probably might have to dip into the 6s because you know it's a bit broke. The current, even with the state of like games writing and inflated scores, this game's Metacritic from critics at the moment is 28.
Jesus.
So that gives you an idea, and I think the user score is slightly higher at like 3. So, you know, users and critics pretty much on a par with one another at the moment.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we've been pretty fair. We've given them extra time, which we usually do in games, are pretty busted to try and sort things out. And it's, okay, yeah, we don't have 2 years, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, I was actually shocked that some of the very early campaign bugs were still there, like 10 days after release, 11 days after release. And in some cases were worse. So it's like it's just not acceptable in any way.
I seem to remember the earlier X games being quite broken as well. Not to this extent, certainly, but then I'm probably slightly biased. I was never a fan of the X series. I always found it quite bloated and a bit nice ideas, but executed quite poorly.
Yeah,
but it has a lot of fans, so.
I actually reviewed. I reviewed
Look at it this way,
X3.
Tim. This is terrible ideas executed badly. So
Yeah, this is kind of the problem. It doesn't have that. There's nothing that I can really find underneath where I think, yeah, well, except that it looks quite pretty and the music's good. But I mean, you could get that from a screensaver. It, yeah, I reviewed X3 Terran Conflict. It was one of the first games I reviewed for IncGamers, I think. And yeah, it was a bit bugged on release. I think I gave it like a 6 in the end. But you know, it was. I had a good time with it, and I could find the game underneath, you know, and it seemed like this is stuff that would be very fixable. This I can't see it. I mean, maybe in a year or something, maybe, but it's like when the best defense of the game that you can give is, well, maybe in a year it might be kind of playable. It's time to give up. It's really it's not going anywhere. So.
Oh, yeah.
please move on, please.
Sorry.
Can I just make a very quick aside? One of my favourite games reviews ever, or at least the scoring, was in PC Gamer, and this was years and years ago, and it was for Big Brother 2, the game, and the score they gave it was not applicable. In the summary box, we've put as much effort into scoring this game as they did into making it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some effort has gone into this one. It's just misplaced effort, and I don't like leaving games sort of unfinished. But you know, I just reached a point in this where I don't even know if I can get beyond the point that I'm at anymore. So it's kind of like it's 20 odd hours in, I'm done, man.
I look forward to your review.
It's a cheerful one. I actually don't know what you guys have really played this week. Well, I know, Tim, you've played XCOM some more, but we talked about that last week. And Paul, I'm sure you played Path of Exile some more since the review of that went up. But
yeah, Path of Exile review's up, and then I immediately jumped straight in after that was posted into SimCity Cities tomorrow, which I said I was going to do last week in the podcast. So yeah, I gave up on trying to sort of revitalize one of my older cities, and I started a new city yesterday from scratch, and it was kind of like I kind of felt like I was just going through the motions. In fact, I got a city up and running with 2 mega towers within a couple of hours. I mean, it was really quick. It was certainly felt quicker than when I did it originally when I was playing the game. Maybe I just know the game a little better now, but I wasn't making any particularly great careful decisions about the city planning or anything like that. It was all just about getting the money up, getting a good road structure down, and getting these mega towers built. So I kind of felt that there wasn't really that much of a challenge in it, and it almost felt like it was just. I mean, literally, as an example, I got the thing up and running. Turned away from my monitor for maybe 15 minutes and came back and found I had 500,000 simoleon in my bank. And I was just like, well, I haven't done anything. I've just left it. And I've left it in sort of super ninja mode. And I've come back and I've got 500,000 there. So now I can go back to the game this evening and just start whacking on modules onto the mega towers. I am still finding bugs. I mean, I put down a couple of those new maglev train stations yesterday. And I'd put one down and I'd go back to it and it had disappeared. It just like literally gone. It wasn't there. Yeah, it was kind of a bit creepy. And I thought, oh, maybe I've just misclicked it. So I went and did it again. And the second one that I put down, again, it just disappeared. So there are bugs in it. But do you know what? The problem with this is, it's a nice idea. There's just not, for me, there's not enough in it. And it all goes down, God, and I say it every week, to the damn city sizes. I don't want to build up. I'm building... I've got like a road, right, with a little tram system on it, and I've put a maglev train on top of the tram system, which is all just seems so fucking pointless. Yeah, I mean, it's just so pointless. Yeah, and I'm sorry, but the core game for me is what breaks this. It's not that they're bad ideas, the stuff that they're putting in, but from what I've played so far, which is probably about 5 hours yesterday on the new expansion, um, really, there's nothing. There's just nothing. It's just I feel very empty. I feel empty and sad.
Oh. How much is this expansion again?
It's practically a full price game. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
It
really?
is. I mean, it does add quite a bit to it. I mean,
Mm.
like obviously some of the artwork when you start making your city a bit more advanced and that some of the sort of normal regular buildings are a bit more high tech looking. So it's adding more art in. But effectively, all it does is add two more tech trees that you have to research and go through to give you some of the cooler stuff, and adds a couple of more resources like the Omega stuff, and then the sort of like Wi-Fi signal shit that basically comes out and powers some of the new buildings that you've got. But I find it so not very challenging and rather very pointless. And I'll just say, Tim, actually, I stole one of the regions next to your city just to get this one up and running. So you bastard, you haven't been online since about March, and you were still sending criminals into my city yesterday.
That's
Which
insane.
city was this? I'll go and log back in and fix it.
It was Tim City. Tim City's in a mess.
Okay, I'll go and I'll raise it to the ground later.
But so far, yeah, I'm not. I like the premise of what they're trying to do, but it's fundamentally being plonked on top of something that is still not right for me. And I also think the price point is a huge issue with this. This should have gone out at like 15, 20 quid max. But I think it's 30 to 40 or something ridiculous like that. So
Mm.
I unfortunately I don't think it's going to have dragged people back to the game. It's taken 8 patches I think now to try and get the game up to speed, and they have done some nice things like the sort of the raised roads and this underground tunnel system for the
Mm.
traffic. But again, that is just a compromise to the fact that the cities are so damn small. So it's not. I'm sorry, Maxis, but I think fundamentally your core game is still not right, and any more expansions you put out are just going to not really improve that.
I feel like to complete the trifecta of broken PC games, Tim should be talking about Rome 2. Just to, or maybe Battlefield 4, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
There's
think I think Battlefield 4 is slightly improved now. I haven't really been back to
Okay.
it.
Well, I mean,
Since.
Yeah,
their
I think
issue was a bit. I mean, theirs was all server stuff, which is obviously theoretically very fixable.
yeah, I think the
Mostly
server
server
crashing.
lag and frame rate optimization for the most part.
Yeah.
I imagine the server stuff is probably sorted. There have likely been some optimizations with driver releases since then. I don't know about the lag stuff. Yeah, I need to go back to that and have another look at it, really.
Yeah, I will pick that up probably in a couple of weeks or so, or just around Christmas time. I've got something just to shoot at. But it's a typical case of don't pre-order and
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
expect too much.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield's actually a good example, bearing in mind the two games that we've just talked about. Battlefield is a game that is fundamentally a good game that's just buggy and flawed and will probably be fixed up to a really good state. When it gets fixed up to that state, I have no hesitation recommending it. It's the cop-out thing all over again. If you liked Battlefield 3, well, this is pretty similar, but with a few changes to the way the mechanics work. I mean, the more in-depth stuff like suppression and things like that. The fundamental game is still roughly the same. Whereas with things like X and SimCity, they've got more, from what you've said at least, more fundamental problems that are
Yeah.
much more difficult to fix. The problems with the actual game design,
Yep.
which isn't the sort of thing you can fix with patches.
I think if there's anything to be learned from the sort of latter half of 2013 for PC gamers at least, is you don't pre-order your games because
Yeah.
seriously, there's some big titles that have just been fundamentally screwed up, and I kind of have little sympathy for people who jump in pre-order just based on the name alone.
Yeah, so let's quickly throw another couple of million at Star Citizen, yeah?
Yeah, I'll admit fully that I back Citizen, but I've backed Star Citizen, but not doing a horrendous amount of money, and I'm certainly not going to pump any more money into it for new ships and shit like that for my hangar. That's just silly. I'll wait to see how the game plays because I want to play it. But
Considering how much money they've got from this, I'm honestly, I will be slightly disappointed if when the game comes out, they don't give us like 2 years worth of completely free DLC.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I do find charging like $1 million for a new ship being added to the game, I find that slightly ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're not really charging for it, though, are they? I mean, they're just asking people just to chip in $1 or $1.50 or whatever the hell it is that costs.
When it's coming out to like requiring 1 million of those dollars in order to actually add in some of these ships, which I cannot imagine take $1 million worth of work. You know, can we stop talking about Star Citizen? We talk about it every week.
Yeah, just to put it in perspective, I think there's probably around 250,000 backers, I think, for the game. So you can roughly work out how much people are pumping in. And I certainly haven't pumped any more in since the start. So there are people, probably a small portion of people that are putting decent chunks of money down.
Indeed. Yeah, Tim, did you play something that you could discuss?
I've played some stuff that I could talk about, but I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, time is ticking on. I don't have anything too relevant to discuss.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, we'll just say that your XCOM Enemy Within review is up.
Yep.
The X Rebirth review will be, if not up when you're hearing this, then very shortly afterwards. Path of Exile review is up. I assume a SimCity one is coming in the future when Tim's criminals leave Paul's streets. What else have we had recently?
Yeah, just to remind everyone actually that there's a lot of live streaming going on right now on the Diablo IncGamers site. I think they've probably done about 10 hours worth of live streaming with the new expansion, which a few of the team are in at the moment, and it's all go on that front. So do keep an eye on Diablo IncGamers. Your Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag review.
Yes, Tim's Oculus Rift diary featuring some exemplary toilet photos. So. Go look out for those.
Thanks.
Obviously, Fallout 4 stuff all over the place.
State of Decay as well. Your State of Decay review as well. That went up after the last podcast, I think.
Oh, it did, yes. Well, we actually have the DLC for that as well, which I will be reviewing in the near future too. So look out for that. And what else? I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. We're getting near to the fallow period of December, of course, where we're getting more article orientated than game oriented, I think. But there we go. That's what it's going to be. How's our Facebook users going, Paul?
They're doing wonderful. Hello, Facebook users. Hello, Twitter followers, and just tell your friends to follow us because we are the best on the planet.
We are the best. On or off the planet. Thanks very much for listening. This has been another IncGamers Podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Toodaloo.
So I could go and lie on the bed.
You're going to do the podcast from the bed, you lazy bastard.
It would be quite comfortable, but I might actually fall asleep.